Hi, Jeters. Today, we're going to talk about something a little more serious. And this is probably not going to be a VOD for everyone. And so, if you have hesitation or trauma around your own mortality or the loss of your friends and family, this is probably not the VOD for you. You may want to just stop playing right now because we're going to talk about this. And I fully respect that some people, maybe many people, will not want to hear about this. And I'm 100% serious that it's a hard topic to hear about, talk about, because I think it can spawn off a lot of thoughts, a lot of deep dives on things that maybe people are just not in the right mindset for. So please feel free to stop playing this VOD right now if this is something that you are not in the right mental space for, or it's just something that you're not interested in hearing about. I completely respect that. For the rest of you who have decided to not hit the stop button, I want to share with you why we're talking about this today. As many of you probably know, we're amassing a good following on Goju Tech Talk, which makes me happy, largely for the community building aspect of this. I think many of you know I'm very driven by working as a community and trying to improve our ability to think critically, to build technology, understand science better, just advancing the world of reason as much as we possibly can, and to do it in a fun and lighthearted way and allow many people to have voices. And one of the things that I ask for are topics. I was recently contacted by a very good friend of mine, someone I've known for almost 30 years. So again, I'm 50 now. And this is someone I think I've known since my 20s. Yeah, maybe even before I was 20. Might be even more than that, like when I was first entering undergrad. So this very good friend of mine, long-term friendship and traveler, was mentioning that they're loving the channel, but they were curious if I've ever spoken about mortality and how this can affect the world, especially from developers. And the reason why they were asking this question is this person is a software developer and has been doing software development for as long as I have. And this last week, they lost someone on their team. And it was very unexpected. And the team, I guess, sort of gathered together and shared some thoughts about the person that they just lost. And the very good friend of mine that I was speaking to, I'm trying to be very careful to not mention any names because it's not my place to share any of that information. But this person was sharing with me that while it's very hard losing anyone that you're really close with, that you're working with as like a long-term member of a team, and you're really getting to know them, something that they observed was how their legacy lives on in code. And I've thought about this myself. And I think that there are some very interesting analogies here that I'm not sure if many of us are deeply aware of, because I don't know that this was necessarily why we were doing or why we are doing the things that we do with software. And I wanted to share some of this with some of you in the hopes that maybe this will expand the way that you think about things, or at least share another perspective of something that maybe we don't think about on the daily. Although, to be honest, it's something that I think about as a Stoic quite a bit. I think I've mentioned many times that as a Stoic, one of the things I'll do iteratively is one of the first things I'll do when I wake up in the morning is I'll remind myself that I'm mortal. And it may sound like a little morbid. Like, what do you mean, Goju? Like, do you mention that you're gonna, today might be the last day? Very much so. That's actually very much what I remind myself of. But it's not done in terms of fear. It's done more in terms of feeling grateful that I'm alive for another day. And what can I do in this day? Really, the purpose is to just not take life for granted, to not ever wake up and feel like, oh, another day, another grind, another thing to survive and get through until I can get to the weekend or the vacation or the Netflix marathon, whatever it is. And from my perspective, at least, and I'm a very strange cookie, right? I'm not cut from the same cloth, I think, as many people. And I'm not trying to be different. I just think about things maybe in a different way. And I do things sort of the Goju way, which is how I've done them for quite some time. And it's not for everyone. But the way I think about things is I don't really have this idea of I'm working, I'm not working, I'm with friends, I'm with work colleagues. In my view, it's just all the same. It's just time moving forward and I'm doing stuff. So, for example, it's Sunday afternoon and I'm doing this. Sunday, and I think in many people's minds, might be considered a day of rest, a day off. I don't really adhere to these notions. And part of the reason why I don't is because of the mortality piece. And I'm not trying to be a superhero here or be a role model. I think that the way I live in many cases is absurd. And I think that other people should not do what I do. I think that many people, you should have your friends and your family, and you should find some balance, perhaps. But for me personally, I have a view on the things that I want to do. And again, I'm not trying to project this onto anyone. There are some people that are wired the same way that I am. Many of the professors that I know have sort of this similar type of unrelenting fire. Largely, the more accomplished they become, I think the more, I don't want to say desperate, but the more they become passionate about ensuring that they can do everything they can do while they're here. And I think that's very much how I think about this. But along those lines, with this notion of thinking about my own mortality, and I do think that this is one of the core principles of Stoicism, because I think that many people might think of our mortality as something to be afraid of. I don't view it this way. I view it as it's an inevitability. It's coming for all of us. And so we should know this and just come to terms with this. There's no escaping it. It's going to happen. And so, at least my view, and I think the Stoics' view, Marcus Aurelius's view, is that while it isn't here, let's do the best that we can. Let's build these incredible things and move things forward, not necessarily for ourselves, but to be in the service of others. This is a big reason why I created GTT and why I teach and why I do as much open source as I think I can. I can't open source everything, unfortunately, at least not yet. I'm not in that position. But I do really like the principles of open source. I think there's a reason why Taylor Dolezal left the Linux Foundation to join Merli. And I think at least some part of that has to do with the fact that he and I have very similar ideological views of the world, that there's some need for preservation. So wealth, shelter, food, this kind of thing. But I think Taylor and I have a similar view that once you reach a certain threshold, then the world becomes more about trying to raise other boats, and that neither of us are principally driven by greed. We're driven more by meaningfulness. And I don't really care about having 15 yachts, but I do care about having 15 different machine programming systems that we've built from ground up to help the world be better. That matters to me. Thus, GTT on the weekends. And the reason why I'm sharing this is when I think about mortality, and I think about it from a developer's perspective. So probably many of you that follow this channel, I suspect, are coders. It's quite interesting if you start to think about the legacy that we leave every day that other people are not necessarily. Now, historically, I think the legacy that people would leave behind them might be the actions that they've made. There's some sort of heroic figure. They have had incredible accomplishments that get told in stories or that get written down. So you'll have emperors, you'll have, warriors, you'll have scientists, or various other individuals that have done incredible things And people have documented that. So that's sort of one way to have this legacy view. Another way that's emerged, I think, more recently is legacy being left by writing books. And I think that's a fantastic way to leave a legacy. I do actually believe that we're moving forward beyond just the traditional books in terms of our legacy. And I think that code is one example of that. But I also think that things like video recordings, like things that I do on GTT, will likely be preserved. At least this is my hope, even after I'm no longer around. And this is part of the reason why I'm recording these episodes, is that my hope is perhaps other people can learn from these things or see a different perspective or give them just more information to supplement the things that they're already thinking about. And so while intentional things like writing books or doing VODs, this type of thing, is a way to capture your legacy, I also think that software code is a way to capture our legacy. And it's happening, I think, every day. And I did this quick Google search on our legacy is in our code just to see what it would come up with. And I didn't really give it any context. And by the way, I'm specifically avoiding saying certain words right now, like the D word. And I'm doing that because I know that YouTube has certain aspects of its algorithm that it will not share this video if certain keywords are mentioned. And I am hopeful that this can reach as many people as possible, because I think that the message, at least what I'm intending here, is something wholesome. That's my intent. And I realize that a big part of doing audacious things is people will misunderstand, or they will maybe not necessarily take things in the positive light in which you've intended. And that's fine. That's part of life. That's the cost of putting yourself out there. I am fully aware of this and have been aware of this for 30 plus years. I think when I first started creating Nautica, I started to realize what it's like to put yourself out there. And the world can be a harsh place, which is amusing to me. And I kind of smile about it because I don't even really think of it as harsh anymore. The view that I have is, just to give you in very plain terms, when anyone is giving you any kind of feedback, they're yelling at you, telling you you're horrible, you're awful. They're telling you that you're great, that you're amazing. All of that is essentially care. It may not feel like that, but I think that from a truly sort of enlightened state, I'm not trying to say that I'm enlightened. I'm trying to say, like, if you were to ask someone like Marcus Aurelius or Buddha, like, what does this mean? Does this person hate me? Does this person like want me to be unalived? And I think that they would argue that when people are yelling at you, or they're telling you that you're stupid or whatever, part of what they're doing is it relates to things that they have to sort out. For example, very rarely, if ever, do I say things like that someone is stupid or that they're dumb, because generally I just don't think these things. And so you likely won't hear me say this to anyone. I might get frustrated when people don't care and they don't put forward a lot of effort, but very rarely will I question someone's intelligence when I'm disappointed with them. And that's largely because I have a very positive view of the world. And I think that questioning someone's intelligence sort of has no place in anything. So why am I bringing this up? If people say derogatory things to you, a lot of times that has a lot more to do with them than it does with you, right? So think about the enlightened people that you know, and then think about, would they ever say like really harsh things to you? Probably not, because they probably don't think those things. They probably think other things. And so when you get people that are giving you a bunch of negative feedback, the first thing is to consider, like if it's truly like unruly, is that's a lot more to do with them. Doesn't have very little, it has very little to do with you. The second part, which I think is probably the more interesting part, is when people share feedback, it means they care. Whether it's harsh feedback or friendly feedback, it means they care because they are giving you their time. Now, maybe they're trolling you and they're just trying to create excitement in the comment section. Okay, cool. So it's excitement in the comment section. You're becoming more of a hot topic. That's great. I think a lot of it has to do with how you react to it. If you become wildly offended, then I think you essentially show the world that you can be wounded. And so this will help feed the trolls, so to speak. But if you lean into it, like I often do, you'll see that generally speaking, I mean, the trolls will just sort of go away. They'll just stop because I won't try to fight them really in any regard, because I know what it means. I know that part of it has to do with them. And then another part is they're actually showing that they care. This is why even if I get comments that are maybe not worded in a super great way, I don't care. I really don't care. I'll still engage with those people. Mostly, unless it's like way over the top. So what's sort of like the point in all this? Well, I think there's many different points, but the first is that looking at life as a blessing. And this is something that I think if you can make this transition to really consider that life is a blessing, every day is a blessing, I think it can change the way you think about things quite a bit. There was a period of time where I didn't have this view. And I was stressed and I was panicked and my life was pretty miserable. And then as I got older, I started to, I think, have a deeper appreciation for pain and suffering, realizing that almost all the growth that I've had in my life has been from various forms of pain and suffering. And I've, instead of trying to avoid those things, I've started to lean into those things. I do those things more. And I'm excited by them because they're helping me grow. Like, for example, doing this VOD on this topic, this is not my topic, but this is a topic of a cheater and it matters to them. And so it matters to me. So when we think about life, whatever your religious views are, whatever your personal views are, I'm not trying to project. I think that you should believe what you believe, as long as you aren't hurting other people. I have no guidance on that front, and it's not my place. But when it comes to the day-to-day, I think having that outlook of positivity and being grateful about being here is a really fantastic way to kind of get things started. On top of this, at least for me, one of the pieces that has really helped me is I don't get caught up in this wins and losses and whatever. In fact, if I'm winning too much, I'm usually thinking I'm doing something wrong. And I realize this might sound strange, but it's true. In fact, I heard one of my mentors, Rich Ulig, who's the head or the former head of Intel Labs, he was talking about how if we as Intel Labs are succeeding on all of our research fronts, we're doing something wrong because it means that we're playing it too safe. We should be failing. And I agree with this. Like, I'm trying to fail on the daily. I already failed today on a Sunday. I did. And I got a dose of failure this morning. And it was good. It was good. It was a good learning experience, and I had time to ruminate on it, and I think it's helping me think more clearly and do bigger and better things. But when we have this outlook of being in the service of others, so we hold true to this idea of positivity and being grateful, right? Like every day is a blessing. And then when we augment that with this notion of helping other people, not just helping ourselves, helping other people, I've personally found that it sort of just makes everything better in terms of meaningfulness. And it's not necessarily going to make you happier or have more joy. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I do think that at the end of the day, when you're winding down and you're thinking to yourself, was today a good day? Did I do meaningful things today? The answer will be yes. And I think that when you do that over time, it creates something inside of you that gives you this, it's like an inner peace, because you start to come to terms with the fact that today could be your last day. And that's okay. Because of all the things that you've contributed, all the things that you have pushed forward, all the people that you have helped more than just yourself. And that's a wonderful feeling. And along those lines, I think that us as developers, whether we realize it or not, we're actually doing this almost every day. Is that the code that we're writing, assuming it's, not nefarious code, but heck, even nefarious code can be helpful because it can help us identify flaws in code that can make the code better. But generally speaking, every day that we're writing code, we're likely helping the world because other people are benefiting from this. And we have no idea how many people may be benefiting. And obviously, this increases probably significantly as we do more open source. I try to open source this. By the way, I may create projects for all the coding things that we do on GTT and create a GTT GitHub or something where I'll put all the code related to the different experiments that we're running, like the range stuff, optimizing those for loops, writing various operators for classes, doing generic programming, stuff like this. So I'm already starting to organize some of the VODs that are series, like the Let's Keep Coding. I think I created a podcast that has the 4 episodes in it now. I still don't know how to order them, so I think it's like backwards or something. But anyway, I'll figure it out. I'm learning every day. But I wanted to share this idea that we are all mortal, and at least for me, I have no idea when the gig is up. Could be today. Could be tomorrow. Could be 30 years from now. But what I'm trying to do is to make every day matter. And it doesn't mean that you have to work to the bone 16, 20 hours every day and go completely crazy. I mean, some days, sure, do that. But some days you may need to rest. And some days you may need to just work, but be at sort of a more chill pace. But I do think working toward meaningfulness and doing this on the daily, whatever that means, I think that's for you to decide. My definition of meaningfulness is probably very different than others, and I encourage all of you to seek that out. I think that this is one of the best ways to help us come to terms with this mortality and help us be grateful. Because when we wake up in the morning and we're remembering that we're alive, I think it's super helpful to have this notion of we're alive and I'm in the service of others. And I'm here to make those others' lives a little bit better today. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to do that. Whether it's helping junior developers learn how to code, whether it's brainstorming with other folks, whether it's writing code that will become critical for other people to think about or enhance their growing. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can do this, right? And again, I think that through enough learning and enough training, all of us can develop skills that can help others. And we can be helping at different levels, right? I wasn't always teaching graduate level computer science at the university that I teach at. I started teaching, well, I think the earliest I can remember is as an undergrad, as a TA, doing these mini lectures for CS 101, essentially. And I remember I had a class of, it would be like 80 students, because this is the big class. This is like the intro to programming class, and there's like 5 to 10 different classes in session per semester. And each one of those classes had something like 200 to 300 students, maybe more. And so my recitations would be something like 80 students, be like fully packed. That's kind of how I got started. And then I just continued to do that and put myself in service of others. And it doesn't always have to be the service of others, but what I find is that even when you're doing things that are in service of you, if you're doing things that are in the service of others, service of you is servicing others. What do I mean by this? Exercise. I try to do exercise constantly. And how is that helpful for others? Well, if I'm healthy and my mind continues to work, then I likely can be in the service of others for a longer period of time. But if I'm not healthy, and if I let my health and my just general physical and mental well-being decline, then I'm likely not going to be able to be in the service of others as long. So you can see how it's all sort of cyclical. Like this is why I was saying before, I don't really have these on and off things. Like I'm working now, I'm not working now. I'm with the work people, I'm with the friend people. They're all just people. It's all just stuff. And in my sort of warped mind, I'm just trying to grow at all times. And I get inspiration from a bunch of different places. Everything that I'm doing, I think of as things that are moving me forward. Very seriously. I literally will play video games. And as I'm playing a video game, I'll be thinking, this is a really interesting concept. I wonder if we could implement something like this into Mentor. Truthfully. And then we end up doing this. There was actually something I was using, just to give you another example. There was this delete me system that I was using that was trying to delete some of my personal information from the intrawebs. And in the process of using that, I was very impressed by the time savings that they showed me. They basically said, we saved you 30 hours of work by doing all this. And I thought, oh, that's so awesome. And so I stole this idea. I mean, I know lots of people have done this, but it was from this delete me thing. And if you guys have delete me, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This email they sent is, here's the hours saved. And so, yeah, I'm like, this is a great idea. This will help people understand the hours that Mentor saving people. And so, and this is something related to my personal life, right? I'm just listening to the universe at all times. I'm constantly just trying to hear what is being said and then thinking, how could I use this in a meaningful way? Personal life, professional life, whatever life. And I'll do the same thing with video games, is that I want Mentor, for example, to be as fun as possible. And we've got work to do to make it more fun. But going back to our point about this mortality and the legacy that we leave behind, I do believe very strongly that as coders, whether we realize it or not, we are building a legacy of ourselves every day. Whether you're a junior coder or a super coder, I don't know. Those are just degrees of skill in my mind. And I'm of the mind that with enough practice, as long as certain baseline levels are in place, I think that people can achieve greatness in a variety of different ways. I'm not saying that all of us can become the Olympic swimmer that is Michael Phelps, if that's his name. Because those things, there are physiological qualities. There are immutable qualities related to athletes that either you have or you don't have. For example, for weightlifting, the shorter the weightlifters are, the more advantage they have for doing motions like squatting or bench press, because they have a smaller range of motion that they have to move the weight. It's a physics thing. This is part of the reason why I think like Arnold Schwarzenegger was seen as such an anomaly, is that he was really tall and he also had massive muscle mass. There were other things, I think, that were playing in there, but I think you get what I'm saying. Now, when you start to move into things that are more related to intellectual pursuits, yes, there are also divisions of things like the height. Like the Michael Phelps he's very tall and he has like these really long arms, and that's useful. So yes, you still have different levels of intelligence, and some people are rocking out 200 IQ, and the rest of us are closer to like 100 IQ. But that doesn't mean that you can achieve greatness. All that really means is that the person with the 200 IQ likely learns things faster, but it says nothing about the discipline that that person has or doesn't have. So if you're wildly disciplined and you're really committed, I think that, so you don't have this immutable quality. So what? You have other qualities that are mutable that you can train. And the truth is, I've actually seen a lot of the 200 IQ folks not achieve a lot of the greatness that I think many people thought they were going to achieve, largely because it was too easy for them, that they got so used to being able to solve problems instantly that they became uninterested in solving problems, especially harder ones, because they actually took more work. Whereas for people that are not at the 200 IQ level, they've had to deal with problems being hard to solve their entire life. And so they've had a huge amount of training on persistence, perseverance, dealing with obstacles that these other super geniuses maybe haven't had to deal with or develop those skills. And so you can see how having a 200 IQ can actually be a weakness, not a strength. It's a very inverted take. I realize this. But the truth is, life is quite nuanced. And just because we think that, oh, wow, if only I looked like this person, wouldn't life be so great? Or if only I were this tall, life would be so great. Or if only I had this much money. I mean, be careful what you wish for, because it may not be all puppy dogs and rainbows. And it could very well be that where you are in life, the cards that you've been dealt can lead you to your own incredible greatness through your own incredible, crazy story. And I would strongly recommend that none of you take that for granted, especially when it comes to the things that you have been given in life that are the immutable characteristics. To understand what those are, be grateful for those things, and then work on all the things that are the mutable characteristics that you can to make yourself an amazing person that's going to do amazing things and be in the service of others and leave this incredible legacy. And again, not for you, but for the world, for the next generation, for the others that are going to follow in our footsteps. I think that that is one of the greatest things that we can do. And it's part of the reason why I actually created GTT, is I just saw that it felt like there's too much social unrest and too much negativity and too much just like sort of negative discourse without us trying to level each other up. And I think we can do better. And I think we should do better. And my hope is that other folks that want to build community, that want to do good things, will find channels like GTT and be inspired, or at least share a similar type of view, and then spread that to others. I think that's the key thing. So with this, I just wanted to share that this is a very tough topic, and I don't have any answers on what happens after. All I know is that we're here for a short time. And my view is I'm going to continue to wake up every morning, and I'm going to remind myself about my own mortality, and not in a morbid way, but in a way of gratefulness. And then I'm going to try to spend every one of my days making small footsteps to move myself and the community forward, knowing that every little thing that I'm doing is hopefully helping in some way. Whether it's a small amount of code we write together on GTT, or it's training the team, or it's teaching my students, or it's spending the day on the internet learning about R value, references, move semantics, and perfect forwarding. Because again, learning that stuff is improving me. And if that's improving me and I'm in the service of others, then I can take that and try to, share that knowledge and raise all boats. So it's strange, right? Because this idea of selfishness starts to take on a very different type of role. It's not so selfish anymore, perhaps. So as developers, I want to thank all of you for the incredible work that you do. And I think each and every one of you is likely contributing in a way that is helping society. And even though many folks may not know your names or our names, I think that that's kind of beyond the point. I think the real point is that we are doing things that's moving society forward in a very tangential way. Sorry, tangible way. In a very tangible way. And we can touch it, right? And open source is one great example of that, but it's not just open source. It's also code that we're writing for the companies that we work for that is helping other people, and it's moving things forward. And there are not many fields, there's not many careers that I think have this type of impact. And I think it can be easy to take this for granted, especially as if you've been a lifetime coder like I have, or some of my team at Merly have. It's just like what you do. And so you can forget that, oh yeah, wow, this is helping everybody. People will read my code and get better. Like, for example, I still get emailed on the tree container that I wrote 20 plus years ago. And I've seen some crazy ports to it, and it just warms my heart. It's like, that's cool. I had no idea. I just put it out there and then see what happens. So with that, thank you to all of you developers for everything that you're doing. And please continue to do these great things. I think we're all benefiting from it. And let's maybe all of us continue to try to be in the service of others. And these can be really small things. These can be really big things. I think that what matters is that they're just things. They're just things that we're doing. And my belief is that when our time comes, there will be, at least for me, this really good sense of, yeah, I did my best. And I think that basically that's plenty.